Welcome everybody. Riot is on fire lately as they have announced spoilers for set 2 Spirit Forged, and there's a lot of cool stuff in here. New legends, mechanics, champions, units, and also a ton of equipment. Yes, the iconic items of League of Legends. It's a natural progression that if items are a big part of League of Legends, they're going to make their way into Riftbound, and they've done so with equipment. I mean, I think if you're going to add a champion in like Ornn, which we've already seen is going to be part of Spirit Forge, you figured something like this was going to happen, but they're going all in. It's one of the major mechanics, and basically they work like this. Their gear, they come into play. They usually require a power or some other alternate cost to attach it to a unit, and they generally give might. They also do other things like copy abilities, revive units, and much more. Again, using a lot of the iconic items from League of Legends. However, one of the interesting mechanics that a lot of these equipment might have is quick draw. So quick draw basically says you can play them as a reaction spell, which so basically that's reaction spell speed, and they automatically equip to a unit, which is going to be very powerful because not only do you have a buff, but now it's going to persist. This leads into a lot of things where, like, hey, normally you go and if you buff something to take a battlefield, it's just temporary. The opponent kind of gets to swing back, but now whatever you bring in is actually going to have higher might. And so that might make it harder to retake that battlefield, might lead to some more conquer and hold points coming through if it is able to stick. And the other mechanic within equipment that we also see is that some units have is Weapon Master, and Weapon Master basically says you can equip equipment to them for one less, which for a lot of these equipments, seeing as they cost about 1 power to equip to a unit, is going to mean that essentially they can be equipped for free, because it seems like there might be a limitation to once it's equipped, the unit has to die or something before it is going to fall off. But a lot of fun stuff with equipment. And the second mechanic that we are seeing is going to be repeat, which essentially is, hey, I have a spell, I can pay some sort of cost, and it will basically copy the spell. Now, you can't do it multiple times ad infinitum, but the one spell that they did show basically gives 2 might, and then potentially you can pay 2 more to get 4 might from that. Feral Might, I think, could be a really strong card, and good advantage in the fact that instead of having to use multiple cards, even if you're drawing to try to solve a problem within that one card, you can have a scaling 2 to 4 might, which scales across the game, scales across answering solutions, and could be very good. And I can see this mechanic. This is all we've only seen Feral Might so far, but I can see this expanding out to a lot of other different cards that draw or kill units or destroy equipment or something like that. That could be very, very good. Now, of course, within all of this, the big thing is they teased some new legends. And so the first up is going to be Azir. Azir is a Calm Order legend, and he wants to play equipment, which a lot of people have kind of talked about that doesn't feel very thematic to Azir to have equipment. But this whole thing is when you play equipment, you can also create a Sand Soldier. The Sand Soldiers have Weapon Master, which means that likely that equipment will easily attach to the soldier. And so, the Sand Soldiers are 2 might. So the cool part about an Azir deck is, unlike a Victor deck where you're really just getting out tokens and trying to get numbers and then use something like Grand Stratagem or a big buff to get over the line or create kind of like tempo threats that way, instead the Sand Soldiers in and of themselves are really strong to the point where you could possibly make a deck that doesn't have a lot of units in it, and you're just relying on equipment and the Sand Soldiers to build big threats to kind of fight your opponent. And they can be really big, because if you think about it, even the smallest equipment, Adorned Shield, gives you +1 might, gives you tank. That's a 3 might unit that you're creating out of whole cloth. And then you think about other spells that could give +3 might or something like that, and you start to get, oh, like my equipment becomes these. It almost reminds me a little bit of if anyone played the Final Fantasy TCG, the equipment that you would play there, they would kind of create a hero token. But in this case, the hero tokens aren't just 1/1s, they're 2/2s, and so 2 might units getting equipment automatically attached feels like a very strong mechanic in this game compared to just a 1/1 recruit like you're going to get from Victor. So Azir could be really fun, and those that want to build a minion deck with teeth, this I think will be a good option for them. Then next up is Draven, which Draven is causing a lot of buzz. He is Fury and Chaos, and he is a complete draw machine. Basically, if you win any combat, he draws a card. There's no limitation. So you can draw on Conquering, you can draw on if you hold or defend, like multiple attacks, like can come in and you can defend it off. So the amount of cards you could draw could be crazy, and opponent's going to have to play around weighing the cost of going into you if they don't know if they can win. On top of that, he has a killer signature equipment, which we've seen, which is the spinning axe, which is 2-in-1 hybrid power, and you get +3 for the might. However, it does have temporary, but it's not temporary how you think. Basically, if it gets unequipped from a creature, then it'll go away at the beginning of your next phase. That said, you essentially have a quick draw equipment +3 might. It's a spell that's not really available to Fury and Chaos type decks as far as buffs go. And if you think about it, it's persistent. You think about Darius Trifarian, for example, swinging for 10 like you normally would with a cleave, but now when it defends, it's an 8, which is a lot bigger body to have to try to deal with and take back. Obviously, there's still lots of ways to deal with the Darius, or potentially ways that you'll be able to deal with the equipment. But I think it is a very cool signature equipment that might be a staple in a Draven deck, considering a lot of what he wants to do is going to come from Conquering, especially looking at his champion unit, which we'll get into in a little bit. Overall, there's a lot of buzz about Darius and what he can bring to the table versus something like an Annie or a Jinx. I think for Jinx, Draven plays a different style, and that Jinx you want to play through your discard. If you want to play the discard deck, it's there. But for Draven, he's definitely one of those characters. I'm just going to have consistent draw from Conquering and fighting. And then Annie is going to be more of like the spell hold. Both can look like they can have some oppressive game plans, especially early, which is kind of becoming the identity of the Fury Chaos. But I love Chaos card pool. I think movement mechanics are really strong. And so adding that with something that could be really aggressive and give you consistent card draw early and often, I think is really great. Aurelia, funny enough, this is the legend that most crosses over into another Legends lane, which is like, while it doesn't move a unit, essentially if you have ganking or something like that, it's going to do the same thing. When you conquer, she readies, but you can spend a power to ready a unit if you target them. I think that the power cost is kind of lead her to, unlike Yasuo, who's just paying 2. Now she's going to be able to do it pretty often, or potentially more than Yasuo, because Yasuo has to pay that 2 to get that effect off the rip. But I think that the power cost is going to kind of lead to almost like a set kind of deck where you're going to be playing lower economy if you're constantly activating this ability. But that also depends on the other set mechanics that we're seeing between gold gear, we're talking about next actually. So Renata is interesting. She's Victor colors, she's Mind Order. She mainly plays off of holding to get gold tokens. And speaking of gold tokens, you kill them to get power to cast spells. I imagine these will be featured heavily and neutralize some of Kai'Sa's champion imbalance of what she does, because Kai'Sa basically can spend only for spells. But we're seeing a lot of other legends now that are getting these gold tokens, or in these gold tokens, which will be kind of another way that are a universal way to get power back on different things. And so for Renata, if you could hold, I bet you're going to get these gold tokens. Or if you have other sources to get gold tokens, because when you get within 3 points of victory, you also get 1 extra resource out of it. So not only do you get power, you get extra resource. And so the power fantasy of playing Renata is going to be really cool, because you're going to be able to have these really big turns, especially late game, where normally 12 runes is kind of the limit, but she's going to be able to break that with her ability. Power cost, when you think about things you can do with Time Warp plus something else, it's going to get kind of crazy. Sivir, last but not least, she is Chaos and Body legend that is all about gold tokens as well. Now, she gets them whenever you recycle a rune. So if you recycle a rune, you kind of get it back. And it looks like she wants to be aggressive on top of that, because whenever one of your units dies, she is going to be able to ready and kind of recreate power for you. So I think that she also is an interesting take on what gold gear tokens can do. I'm interested to see what is kind of in the rest of the set, and also what the signature equipment is for this, because it seems like, along with Draven, that every unit is going to kind of get a signature equipment, as they are known for their different types of weapons and that kind of stuff. So I'm really interested to see what all of those are, and they might get more play than signature spells do for a lot of champions currently. in Riftbound, just because a lot of them are kind of being cut for decks, or you might get one ofs at the very most, versus kind of what the expectation of powerful spells and juicing might have been for those type of signature spells, to see them with their legend and reason to take the legend. But that's not all. We also got 2 peeks at units and their alternate arts. Lucian the Merciless is a body 3 cost 3 might character with Weapon Master, and the first time you conquer with him, he can ready. I think this is, well, it'll be interesting to see what Lucian himself does as a legend, because this will be a chosen champion unit. But I could see this being in an MF deck where you can give him ganking and he'll be able to fly around with might or his light gun signature guns, whatever, you know, that could be really cool. Also 3 for 3, no power cost, seems good. If there's another way to like pseudo accelerate him, also could be really cool. We'll see what happens there. Now, already there's buzz about Draven being good. The cool part is we've also seen that Riot is willing to put in a champion unit that is the same domain as has already been released. You know, before I was thinking, okay, we saw you know, a body Anivia, so that's one of Anivia's colors, and we'll see what the other Anivia is. But now they're clearly showing like, hey, like we'll do multiple champions within the same domain. And this Draven's pretty cool because you basically get a 4 might unit for 4, no power cost again, which is great. When I win a combat, play a gold token. Again, we've talked about gold gear tokens, so you're going to get another resource for power that's kind of built in there. And even furthermore, you can spend that power, or it's going to help fuel his other cost, which essentially he has. When I attack or defend, you can pay a power to give him +2, which is really cool, because now it's just like you have this scaling assault 2 shield 2 unit that if you want to throw it in, which even if it just had assault 1 or shield 1 would still be pretty good for potential 5 when you're doing whatever. But now you pay power, you get assault 2, shield 2 on demand. I think that is really cool, especially with the ability to generate the gold tokens, so it kind of pays for itself. I think this card could be really, really good, especially again because it's just a good rate, a good chosen champion for 4. You can get it out on turn 2 in most cases. It is going to be strong, and it's going to be an attacking unit that's going to kind of pay for itself and or help you ramp into other power cost things. Equipment, I think it's great. Now, I think this is a big reveal. I think there's a lot of awesome things to talk about within this, of course. And I think there's a few things that I'm also thinking about of like what we may see in the future that I'm excited about. One is I think that I'm really excited for the signature equipment. Like I said, I think that a lot of that's where they're going to go for the set. So seeing the Legends signature equipment is going to be like some things that may shift or make one of these Legends even more powerful than we thought. The other piece is I think that there also is an interesting line of design where we could see, because this is so equipment heavy, we could see within all the equipment and enabling and all that kind of stuff, they could put in some like hate cards or units that destroy equipment or a specific equipment counters within the set to kind of, or gear in general, just to kind of deal with the influx if this is going to be the equipment set. Although I could also see them like kind of lagging a little bit or not going too hard because they want equipment to be highlighted in the set. And if they put too many counters to it, then you won't see it as much. It'll kind of even out unless it's really, really good. So it'll be interesting to see what they put in here. However, if they do put in more gear hate or gear answers, then that is also going to limit Aurora. It kind of explains some stuff of their balancing of how things are going on. It also explains Starfall a little bit, because Starfall in the current format is really good, but if there's a lot of equipment and buffs that stay and then put units outside of Starfall, then that starts to make things more interesting for the format and what can get played and whatnot. And the last thing is, I talked about a little bit, but I think that seals could find some more value in set 2, just because there's going to be so much power hungriness if you want to go down certain routes, and gold gear kind of solves it, but a lot of gold gear mechanics to get gold gear become exhausted, so you have to wait around to kind of use them for future turns. So I could see seals being a really quick answer, and also the fact that you can pay for the seal now with a gold gear token, so you're not even blowing the other rune. There's a lot of potential here within that. So overall, I can't wait for more reviews. I'll have them all here on my channel. Let me know, what are these cards that you think are super powerful cards? I'm going to create a separate video. You can go check that out on just kind of evaluating these cards and where I think they fall within Spirit Forge and what they mean for set two and the competitive format and what's kind of looks powerful, what's going to be hot, what's going to be not. But with all that said, let me know what you think down in the comments. What's your favorite item that's been revealed so far or shown off? What's your favorite mechanic? As always, remember, you're going to be amazing today because you are amazing. I'll catch you next episode.